Hello, beautiful people. So I'm here in my classroom and I'm making a video for you. So tonight's homework help. I'm going to help you out with number 4. But before we get started, I wanted to make sure you're looking at this lesson summary because this lesson summary is going to help you with all of the problems. So looking at the first line, I want you to go ahead and read this part. It says, the value of a ratio. That piece of information is very important. The value of a ratio, A to B, is the quotient A over B as long as B is not 0. This is big, fancy language. And what it basically means is when you have a given ratio A to B, you can just rewrite that exact same ratio as a fraction. A, the first part of your ratio being your numerator, B, the second part of your ratio being your denominator. And these actually can go back and forth. If you are given a fraction, you can go ahead and turn that fraction into a ratio. And that is very key information, just knowing that you can go back and forth between a fraction and a ratio. If you are comfortable doing that, every time you're given a fraction, you want to convert to a ratio, or if you're given a ratio, you can convert it to a fraction. Key thing though, the value of a ratio, when you see that language, I want you to actually go through your page. You're going to see it pop up a lot. The value of a number, the value of a ratio. That language is going to pop up a lot because when they're asking for the value of a ratio, what they're really asking you to do is to convert that ratio into a fraction. So that's one of the main concepts or goals for you this week, is to be able to go back and forth between a ratio and a fraction. So that's just the first part that you absolutely need to understand to be able to solve these problems. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set you up for problem 4. That's what I'm going to work on with you. So here we go. Number 4. Please use Grizzly's Read. You all got those sheets of paper today for Grizzly's Read. Use it. Use it. It's so important for you to use it. So, number 1, you are supposed to read through the text and number the sentences. So for number 4, it says, your middle school has 900 students. 1/3 of the students bring their lunch instead of buying lunch at school. What is the value of the ratio of the number of students who do bring their lunch to the number of students who do not? So you should have gotten 3 sentences. That's the first part. Second part, reread the question. I cannot emphasize enough. Reread the question. And now you're looking for what the actual question is. You're going to underline it. And I'm going to do that in a different color. So I'm rereading it. Your middle school has 900 students. 1/3 of the students bring their lunch instead of buying lunch at school. What is, I already know this is the question. What is the value of the ratio of the number of students who do bring their lunch to the number of students who do not? So I'm trying to find the value of a ratio of the number of students who do bring their lunch to the students who do not. So what I'm going to do to be able to solve this is I'm actually going to split this into a ratio chart. So whenever you're feeling confused, I want you to actually go through this information and try to understand it by splitting it into a ratio chart. So first, let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to make a ratio chart. This part's a little tricky. So let's first say this. It says your middle school has 900 students. 1/3 of them, and you know what? We talked about this already. Let's take this 1/3 and let's convert that into a ratio. 1 to 3. Bring their lunch to school. So these students bring their lunch to school instead of buying the lunch at school. So 1/3 of them. So I know these kids right here, I'm just going to put bring lunch. And then I know the 1/3 is the total students, because if I'm looking at 1/3 of them, you should know this from fractions, of thinking about fractions of like in 5th grade. In 5th grade, you were given fractions showing 1/3. So you know, since this is a 1, 1 out of the 3 kids bring their lunch, you should also know that the total students is the 3, because 1 out of 3, so altogether, that's going to be the total students. Notice I left this blank, this middle column blank. That's because there's one more group in here. And it's not, it doesn't give you a number. It doesn't tell you, but I'm trying to see if you can figure it out. So we know 1 kid out of 3 kids bring their lunch, and there's 3 kids total. Can you figure out how many kids don't bring their lunch? Don't bring lunch? I'm just going to put don't bring lunch. So let me give you a hint. There's 1 kid who brings their lunch. There are 3 kids altogether. How many kids don't bring their lunch? So 1 kid brings their lunch. There are 3 kids altogether. That means 2 kids don't bring their lunch. So now we have a ratio chart. Today we practiced going through and just adding more layers just so you guys got the practice. Key thing that I want you taking away from this portion is just that you're skip counting. You look at the number that is at the top here and you skip count by that number. So we have 1, so we're going to skip count by 1s here. 1, 2, 3. We have 2s here, so we're going to skip count by 2s. 2, 4, oops, wrong color. I like to do a color coded. 2, 4, 6. We have 3 here, so we're going to skip count by 3. 3, 6, 9. So today I had some lovely young ladies come to my office hours, and then they had a question. They said, Ms. Abele, I understand how to do the ratio chart, and I understand why we're doing the ratio chart, but what I don't understand is, where do I stop? Do I just keep making this chart and go on and on and on and on forever? And then my answer is no. So let's go back to our Grizzlies read. So we did the first step. We counted the sentence. We did the second step. We underlined the question. I forgot, I skipped the looking for math language. But I'm also going to remind you, this is like the step that's actually really most important is step 4. Step 4 of finding all the numbers, boxing them, and figuring out what those numbers mean. So your middle school has 900 students. Your middle school has 900 students. If your middle school has 900 students, that's the total students. So when the kid asked me, how do I know where I stop? You need to get to 900 total students. And if you look at your chart, this is how many kids bring their lunch. This is how many kids don't bring their lunch. And this is the total students. So literally, you need to skip count by 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Keep going all the way down until you get to 900. So if you're like me, you're like, that is way too much work. I do not want to skip count by 3s until I get to 900. I want an easier way, which is where the tape diagram comes in. So if I'm thinking about total students, I already see that this number is 3. I can make a tape diagram for that. So I'm going to say total, and I'm going to show that is 3. And I know that I'm multiplying this 3 by something, and altogether it's going to end up being 900. Just for practice, so you just continue, I'm going to make a tape diagram for the kids who don't bring their lunch and the kids who do bring their lunch. So it says 2 for the kids who don't bring their lunch, so I'm going to show 2. And this is no lunch. They're hungry. All right? And then the kids who bring their lunch, only 1 out of those 2. Out of those 3, excuse me. They're the kids who are not hungry because they're fed. All right? I'm being silly now because, you know, it's been a long day and I get silly at the end of the day. All right? Anyway, so out of the 3 total kids, 2 of them don't have a lunch and then 1 of them's fed, right? And this is a part, and we know all together, these need to add up to be 900. So let's go ahead and do some math. 3 times what equals 900? A way you can solve this, and I know like the division part is just a struggle for some folks, is simply to do division. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 900, and I'm going to divide it by the 3. And that's where I got the 3. 3 goes into 9 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 minus 9 is 0. And I just see there's 2 zeros here. I know there's going to be 2 zeros here. This is a quick trick. I'm just not trying to spend too much time on the division. Our next unit is division. We're going to spend a lot of time on it. Just for now, I just know you can plug it into a calculator. I'm fine for you plugging into a calculator for this unit. 900 divided by 3 is 300. So I know that 3 times 300 equals 900. So if I multiply one of these by 300, I can multiply the rest of these by 300 as well. And I know what you're probably thinking. Miss Avila, how do you know that? 1 times 300. So there's 300 kids who are fed, who bring their lunch. There are, so 2 times 300 is 600. There are 600 kids who have no lunch. And so I'm going back to Grizzlies Read because I haven't really showed you this stuff. I'm going to try to help you try to understand and make more sense out of this because I know a lot of people are struggling with this. How do you know? How do you know? Well, if I know 1 out of 3 kids bring their lunch, then, and I think that's 300 kids, and then I know the other 2 out of 3 kids don't bring their lunch, and I think that's 600 kids, go ahead and add these two numbers. If you look, the 300 should actually add up with the 600. So 300 plus 600 is 900, and that's the total kids. So it should make sense that the amount of kids who bring their lunch plus the amount of kids who don't bring their lunch should add up to be the total amount of students. So hopefully this is making a little bit more sense to you. Again, going back to the question, we lost some, we've been over here for a while. My computer got a little tired. Going back to the question that we underlined. What is the value of the ratio of the number of students who, so what is the value of the ratio? They want us to give them a fraction as an answer. If it's asking us what is the value, they want us to give us a fraction as an answer. So what is the value of the ratio of the number of students who do bring their lunch to the number of students who don't bring their lunch? So I'm going to give you some hints. You have to create a ratio for the number of students who do bring their lunch to the number of students who don't bring their lunch. And then you have to convert that into a fraction. Read that. Spend some time with that. I believe in you. Have a wonderful evening. As always, you guys are great. Bye.